If you've been looking for a podcast centered around real stories from people living with chronic illness, disability, or neurodivergence, a podcast that makes you feel seen, heard, and a little less alone, well, congratulations. You've officially found your little corner of podcast land. My name is Mel, and I will be your host. This pod has been several years coming. I've been wanting to start a podcast for as far back as I can remember. Sidebar, I used to host a radio show in college, actually probably several. But because I'm autistic and I have a multitude of special interests, for some reason, I never thought they fit together. I thought I needed a different podcast for each facet of my personality. I felt like I had to choose one topic and one name. For fuck's sake, the damn name. That was the hardest part. But the one consistent part of me that never leaves me are my chronic health conditions, my neurodiverse brain, and the fact that I am disabled. It seems no matter where I go or what I do, these are part of my identity. They're not things I can escape from. They're part of who I am. You know the picture perfect, ideal 9 to 5, Monday through Friday in-person job? The kind of career I thought I was supposed to have after going to college? Well, I tried to make it work over and over and over. But my body kept rejecting it. My body and brain kept telling me that something had to change. At first, I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. Then 11 years later, I started having seizures triggered by job stress. I couldn't accept that this was it for me, that I wouldn't be able to work or contribute to the world. I needed to find another way. And I still am. I'm still figuring it out. But I thought to myself, I can't be the only one. There must be people out there just like me who have something to say about their situation, who want to feel heard, who want to feel less alone, who want to find their people. So here we are. We are the sick and tired. In each episode of this pod, I'll be talking with someone who is chronically ill, disabled, and or neurodivergent. We'll talk about how we navigate everyday life, but we'll also dig deeper into things like diagnosis journeys, relationships, mental health, identity, accessibility, loneliness, advocacy, grief, finding community, finding purpose, and ultimately, how we make a life for ourselves in a world that wasn't necessarily made for us. I do want to give a disclaimer that nothing talked about on this podcast should be taken as medical advice. I am not a medical professional, although we may have some medical professionals as guests from time to time. What this podcast is definitely not is a place to compare who has it worse. I'm not interested in playing the suffering Olympics, and I'm definitely not here to spread toxic positivity. Because, quite frankly, some things just suck. And we should be allowed to say that. I'm here to listen, to validate, to ask questions, to be curious, and to hold space for people to tell their stories in their own words. Because living a full life doesn't mean pretending the hard parts aren't hard. Grief and joy can coexist, just like loneliness and community, setbacks and new beginnings. Sometimes we're thriving, sometimes we're surviving, and sometimes we're honestly just so fucking tired. All of these stories have a place here. Your story deserves to be told because someone out there needs to hear it. Maybe someone just got a diagnosis and they're scared. They're looking for hope, comfort, or simply another person who understands. They want to see and hear what life can be like for them. Maybe it's a family member or friend of someone who was recently diagnosed or became disabled, and they're looking to learn how to better support the person they love. Of course, everyone's needs, limits, and capabilities are different, but sometimes hearing someone else's experience can help us understand a perspective we haven't lived ourselves. Maybe a medical professional is listening and your perspective helps them think and practice differently. Maybe someone is looking for relief. Maybe they need to hear that they're allowed to ask questions, get a second opinion, or advocate for themselves with their doctors. Or maybe someone is listening and for the first time, another person describes something they've experienced in their life and thinks, wait, you too? There are so many reasons why your story matters. And sometimes telling your story matters for you too. There can be something really empowering about owning your story and saying it out loud and getting to tell it in your own words instead of having someone else decide what your experience means. Whatever your story is, I'll be sitting on this side of the mic, sometimes cheering you on, sometimes laughing with you, and sometimes just saying, yeah, that was really fucking unfair and I'm so sorry that happened. Because sometimes you don't need someone to find the silver lining. Sometimes you just need someone to hear you and say, I believe you. So whether you're sick and tired, you love someone who is, or you're just here because you want to listen and learn, there's a seat for you. And look, even though I'll be the one sitting down and talking with guests, I still want to hear from you. If you're not already following the pod on Instagram, you can find us at the Sick and Tired Pod. You can also email me at thesickandtiredpod@gmail.com. Send me a message and tell me what you thought of an episode, your favorite parts, something that really resonated with you, or something you want to hear more about. I also want to hear your suggestions for future guests and topics. You can send me questions too, and I may answer them privately, or I'll bring them into a future episode. I really want this to feel like a community and not just me talking into a microphone every week. If you want to help this little pod grow, I would genuinely appreciate it if you shared an episode on your socials, or left a rating or review wherever you're listening. And follow or subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. Those little things really do help get the word out. And selfishly, I also don't want you to miss what's coming. New episodes of Sick and Tired will drop every Monday, so tell a friend to tell a friend. And speaking of what's coming up next Monday, you'll meet the very first guest of Sick and Tired, Janiyah Penny. I'm not going to tell you much yet, but Janiyah is a brilliant young woman living with sickle cell disease, and I cannot wait for you to hear her story. So make sure you're following the pod, and I'll meet you back here next Monday.